So my accountant just retired. Good for him. But where do I go? What do I do now?
You're listening to Practical Tax with tax attorney Steve Moskowitz.
I'm tax attorney Steve Moskowitz with longtime Moskowitz associate tax attorney Liz Prehn. And a lot of people say, but I already have an accountant, but I want a second opinion. There can be a huge difference between an accountant and an attorney. I started my career as a practicing CPA, and the sole reason that I went to law school was to become a tax attorney because I knew as a practicing CPA there were so many things that I couldn't do for a client, and I wanted to be able to do more things for him, do it all, including representation in tax court and many other things, not to mention the privileges that only an attorney has. And I'm talking about attorney-client privilege, where if you come in and you tell me your secrets, by law it remains a secret. If you tell them to anybody else, say a CPA, the IRS can get that information from the CPA and have that CPA testify against you.
Yeah, I think, Steve, the privilege is an important factor. But I really enjoy as a practitioner. I'm not a CPA. I love CPAs. I love our CPAs. I love other CPAs. I need them, right? Because it provides such a great tension between the practice of tax law, the CPA, tax preparation, tax positions. And I think really ultimately it gets the best result for the client. Having this debate going back and forth, whittling down the issue and finding out where your client's risk position really is and how they want to proceed. I think everybody should have both.
That's why it's fortunate we have both here.
Okay, I have a lawyer client that had a CPA that was doing the returns, and they were getting K-1s based on their partnership retirement agreement. And, the question arose, and maybe because they were lawyers, that, they were a little bit more into the definitions of the law and what should be self-employment tax and what should not be, or FICA, subject to FICA. And ultimately, we're able to advise them that maybe this shouldn't be subject to FICA based on their thorough review of their documents and what's happened and their working positions or non-working positions. So that was interesting. It saved them a lot of money. And just going through the returns, we just happened to find a couple minor things like an AMT credit or some depreciation that had been missed. But I thought that was kind of a routine second review. I think that's interesting for clients that might be considering big tax positions and what that really means to their finance books and their business operations and going through that. So if they're going to invest in a pension, invest in an insurance position or something like that, which is certainly provided within the tax code, what does that mean to their ongoing business? What does that mean to documentation, ongoing tax transactions, things like that?
And those opinions are so important. For example, Liz mentioned pensions. Most people are familiar with the common pensions that you get in the bank, but there's many different type of pensions. If you otherwise qualify, you can have multiple pensions. And there are a lot of pensions that business people can have where they individually can deduct hundreds of thousands of dollars or more every year for themselves. And also with pensions, there's even a cash flow benefit. It's the only deduction where most things you have to go ahead and spend the money by 12/31 year one. With a pension, you have up to the time of filing the return plus extension in year two. So essentially, 3/4 of the way into year two, you put some money in a pension, you deduct in year one. It's fantastic, and they have a lot of other benefits too.
Whether or not you have an accountant, I take a collaborative approach, especially when I know the methodology and I feel that the competency is there and that there's no breach of my ethics to continue the relationship either with the accountant or through the client to provide this kind of global comprehensive service. I also think it's important when there's, a new business or a partnership, for instance, the accountant might not be up with, do we need to modify the partnership agreement, to keep up with the laws? Do we need to do that? These are the little things that we can add when it comes to developing the pension strategy, developing the business strategy in terms of what's going to be compliant with the tax law.
You've been listening to Practical Tax with tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. To hear more podcasts, go to moskowitzllp.com.
The information contained in this podcast is based on information available as of the date of its release. Moskowitz LLP and Is an Accountant Enough is under no obligation to update this information as changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all factors which may be applicable, and any information is not to be considered tax advice or legal advice. Further, this is attorney advertising, and the factual and legal circumstances described are dependent on the facts of that particular case. Individual case results will differ based on different facts, law, and other factors. Please consult your tax advisor before acting on any matters discussed.